Pura vida. Let's talk about politics and religion, buddy. Look at that cup. Look at that big old 15-ounce mug. You want one, don't you? I know you do. Just in time for Christmas. CharlieSimons.com. CharlieSimons.com. You get one of these hats too. CharlieSimons.com. Right there. All kinds of hats on there. Hats, shirts, fun stuff. There's fun stuff. Please go there. You'll be helping. You'll be helping the show a lot. If you go and buy some merchandise there, they share with the in the profits that they make. And it's not crazy high prices either, like a lot of these store merchandise places, because it's like movie theaters. They don't make their money off the movies. The movie production companies make all that money, and the distributors. So that's why they charge so much for concessions. That's a lot of these stores or these shows. We don't make a lot of money from the monetization and so on, especially on Rumble. I mean, God bless Rumble. I'm glad it's there, but it just doesn't pay like YouTube. But the people I talk to, like my guest today, Arthur Schaper, gets me kicked off YouTube. So screw YouTube. I'm all about making less money and keeping it real and keeping it. I don't change the English language for the left. I'm not going to craft my sentencing and use code words for the COVID shot and things like that. The jabby jab. What? Good heavens. Please, conservatives, stop doing that. Please. So what? If you're not on YouTube anymore, I know it pays better, but really, have some integrity. But that's just me. Do what you want, really, obviously. You're going to. But many have come over to Rumble because of that. And they just said, that's it. We've had enough. They'll start off live on YouTube right now, like I am at Charlie Simons. And if it gets really dicey or controversial, let's talk about things that they know will get them kicked off YouTube. They'll go, okay, go over to Rumble right now. Well, you know what? Forget that. Cut out the middleman. Just go right to rumble.com/do-not-talk. How about that? And now you know, a little insider trading there. I'm looking forward to talking to Arthur because he's talking about something that is one of my favorite things. Have you ever heard the phrase, never stop an enemy from destroying themselves? Just let them sit back and let them do it. And the ambulance chasing attorneys in the Democrat Party seem to have made a lifelong endeavor of swaying the jury. That's the best way to put it. Remember O.J. Simpson trial? If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. That was a cutesy little phrase. It was directed right at the attorneys, but yet no one on the other side, when he was O.J. was trying to put on that dried blood leather glove with a rubber glove on to protect him because it was blood soaked, right? At one point, now it's dried up. Anybody with any common sense, or actually just a country boy like I am, knows you get leather wet, especially with blood, and it dries, it shrinks up. And you could be wearing a triple XL. You could have a triple XL glove, and you're not going to be able to get it over a rubber glove. Both those things right there. All any of the prosecuting attorneys had to do, Marsha, what's her face, and all that. All they had to say was, this does not apply at all. This is a crazy test just for the drama of it. But nobody said anything because nobody knew that leather shrinks when it dries after it's gotten wet. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. Cochran, that was his name. Johnny Cochran, right? Made him famous because of that. So the left does that constantly. They pick battles to get you ramped up and to get you living in fear, but you never really have to explain it. Oh, I got a neck injury from that accident. Yeah, ambulance chaser. Yeah, that's right. Charlie's neck is all jacked up. We got to get this company to pay him tens of thousands and even hundreds of millions of dollars because his neck is jacked up. Oh, can't prove it. We took x-rays. Nothing shows there. Oh, but it's there. I'm wearing the collar in the courtroom. It's all about swaying the jury. Climate change. That's what we're going to start the conversation with Arthur Schaper today on Do Not Talk. Greta Thunberg morphs. And I can't wait to talk to him about this. Illegals on Do Not Talk. Ready? Hit it. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Charlie? Things are good.
I'm glad to hear they're good. I've been reading your articles at townhall.com. I love it. Let's start off with the morphine of Greta Thunberg. What
Yep.
happened to climate change?
It's quite a relief. It really goes to show how every leftist cause about outrage, taking over the public square, destroying public property, killing people, even God forbid, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's the Palestine thing, people aren't killing others over Ukraine, but of course that's been making a lot of noise recently. But we were hearing over and over about climate change, or before that it was global warming or ozone erosion or the ozone layers depleting, whatever. But I mean, it is really stunning how you don't hear a lot of stuff about climate change anymore. I have been to at least 4 No Kings protests in the LA area, and I never saw a sign that said anything about climate change or, Donald Trump's a climate denier or he's, an anti-science dolt. It's something about the climate issues. And, Greta Thunberg was like the big spokeswoman for this ridiculous cult. They got a pretty young face, put her in front of the cameras. She says a bunch of pleadings, shames us because we only care about money. How dare you? All this other garbage. I mean, she was a joke, obviously, to anybody with, half a brain and any kind of common sense. But for the liberal cause, for the climate change alarmists, for the corporate interests behind the whole climate change fraud, they were more than happy to pump her up. I mean, in San Francisco, they even put her on a mural on one of the city blocks. I mean, that's how silly it was. They were, there was her, and then of course there was George Floyd, but climate change was still a prominent issue during the first, President Trump's first administration. He took us out of the Paris Climate Accords. There was widespread screaming and yelling about that. I remember, I could go back 10 years. I wrote about this briefly. Marianne Williamson, she was a, second tier presidential candidate in 2020.
A perennial independent running for president.
That's it. She ran
every 4 years. There she is again.
Ran for Congress here in the South Bay area for the Santa Monica Bay. And I questioned her about the pseudoscience behind all the climate alarmism. She pushed back on me. She always, the media was always talking about it. The LA Times did this big story about, oh my gosh, polar ice caps are melting. Here's the latest study. Oh my God, climate change. She got a round of applause. Everybody loved her. I never forgot, though, there were these 3 baby boomers, like Vietnam War era people. They were clearly hippies, in their 20s and, late teens. And they came up to me going, how can you not believe in this? Oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end. This one lady, she literally shrieked when I said, I don't think climate change is a big deal. She screamed at me. She was so hysterical about it. Now that's 2014. Then you come to 2019. But here we are in 2025. And there's hardly anything. I mentioned the No Kings protests. You don't see the left screaming and yelling about this. And Greta Thunberg, again, is a perfect, she's a perfect example of this transition. She went from screaming about the climate to screaming about Palestine. That sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And the Palestinian cult sucked in a whole bunch of disparate interests. The racial bigots, Black Lives Matter, they were all in on Palestine as well. A lot of people didn't pay attention to that because the focus, of course, was supposedly on Black lives, police brutality, etc. But even they were screaming about Palestine, hated Israel, pointed out that, Israel's another picture of, Western white supremacist patriarchy, disparaging and displacing marginalized groups, blah, blah, blah. So you had all of these disaffected groups who were screaming and yelling about leftist causes. They have lined up behind the Palestinian cult. And even some on the dissident right are now belly aching about Israel, promoting Palestine, even at the expense of the United States. So this has been a much stronger, galvanizing, anti-Western movement, sucking up all the energy, drawing all of the uproar. And it's strong, it's abusive, it has a real energy behind it. And of course, it's provided a window because there has been a long stream of anti-Semitism within the Democrat Party. Anyway, you had Rashida Tlaib, you had Ilhan Omar coming to the forefront. A growing accommodation for Islam was prominent in the Democrat Party, and this became a great cudgel to force that issue to the forefront. Climate climate change or climate alarmism has fallen to the wayside. You know, I didn't explore this as much because I
It
think
had a good 40-year run, though, Arthur. It had a good 40-year run.
oh boy, did it. I mean, everybody can remember Al Gore was, you know, bellyaching about how the polar ice caps were going to melt away in 2013.
10 years. We're going to be underwater in 10 years.
There you go. He made that prediction in 2008. 2013 came and went. There was a recent report this year that like 100,000 or hundreds of thousands of cubic feet of ice have accumulated. The polar ice caps have grown in the last year. But
Right.
here's the thing, and I really explored this. Facts don't matter. So it's not an issue. You know, there was the New York Post article that said, well, people are seeing that it's a lie. And I go, it doesn't matter if independent voters or everyday voters realize that it was a fraud. That's not the point. Why aren't we hearing about it from the aggressive, ravaging leftists who want to find some cause to scream about? And it's the
and they would scream you down. They would scream you down, yell at you, insult you, demean you. You're an idiot. You're a climate denier. All their little, everything's for the sake of the jury. If the glove does not fit, you must acquit. Everything's for the sake of the jury. All you got to do is get the majority of people getting alarmed about this, and you're off to the races. But what really pulled the rug out from under the whole thing, I believe, was getting rid of USAID. USAID, cutting that off, because that money, our tax dollars, were going to fund these ridiculous programs all over the world that were keeping this alive.
You bring up that's a good point, and I developed that too. All the government funding for all of this activism was cut, and the universities are facing some major financial cuts as well. So all of this climate occultism has lost a lot of its bearing. There was, you know, I mean, the discussion could go even further. I mean, it is true. Corporate America is not getting the benefit anymore of investing in this climate alarmism. We see like the rising demand for energy. AI is drawing a great degree. The demand for electricity has just skyrocketed. Data centers are now, you know,
because of AI, not because, but yet we're supposed to all have electric vehicles. Yeah, Elon Musk even had his, because we were funding people to buy electric vehicles. That started with Obama, for heaven's sake.
That's a good point too. That more government subsidy to promote getting us off of fossil fuels. Again, corporate America, any way, shape, or form that they can get an easy buck, if they can just pump people full of fear about the climate and everything falling apart. There is the science. And of course, I mean, going back to the voters, election 2024, people were so alarmed about crime, so alarmed about illegal immigration, so alarmed about affordability issues that caring about the climate just wasn't a priority. But we got to get, again, if we're talking about activists, they're the ones that want to propel this issue to the forefront, make it number one in the media, academia, all the other institutions' spheres. They're the ones who are driving it, and they're not pushing it anymore. They have been caught up with the foreign policy issues, the Arab-Israeli conflict. That sucked all the oxygen out of the room, but also the money being cut off. That's a key part, and I identified both of those things.
Totally. It's the money. I'm quite convinced of it, because it just went away fast.
This is really exciting. I mean, we're getting Christmas presents now. We've been getting Christmas presents since January, and this is one of the biggest yet. This is very exciting. To see this thing falling apart fast, and I think we can add to this discussion the fact that fewer people are watching network television, where a lot of the propaganda was being pushed in our faces, big business, big pharma, big whatever, and all wanting to push this climate cult. I can't remember how many commercials I would see, even from Chevron, talking about the steps they were taking to participate and help, create a cleaner environment. I don't watch those commercials. I don't even have a TV. A lot of people don't watch the news anymore. This is a accomplished fact. John Nolte talked about this on Breitbart. Only like 30% of Americans are following the news now. So they don't care.
That's still too much. But they're still grooming. They're still grooming. They're still shaping. They're still thinking that they have control over society and they have the dominant narrative, because unfortunately there's a whole lot of people who still do turn to that and think they're actually getting real news from ABC, NBC, CNN, CBS, whatever. The tale of Greta Thunberg. I wonder what's going to happen. What's next for her after there's a peace in the Gaza Strip and
that's exactly it. the so-called Palestinians are still, the whole cultists, they're still belly aching about what's happening in Gaza. You had Bill Maher interviewing Anna Kasparian on his podcast, and she's like, Bill Maher puts the question to her, if you had to, she was in a pretty skimpy dress, or revealing dress, at least by Arab standards, that kind of says it all. What country in the Middle East do you think you could go to, Anna, and you wouldn't get harassed or bullied, abused, or even raped? And then he narrowed it down a little bit and said, would it be Tel Aviv or would it be Amman, Jordan? Tell us. And she had to concede Tel Aviv, Israel, as opposed to all the Arab states. But of course, Anna Kasparian wanted to go into, well, we're not going to be traveling anywhere anyway because the countries are in such upheaval because of the United States foreign policy. And Bill just cut her off and said, oh, you want to blame the white guy? You want to blame America for the fact that women are oppressed in the vast majority of countries in the Middle East? Is that the game you want to play? And shut her down. And speaking of Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur, and the rest, they would bellyache about climate alarmism all the time. It's gone. And again, there's the proof of it. They are sucked into the Arab-Israeli conflict. The anti-Israel, anti-Zionist bashing is far more important. It generates a lot more heat. It generates a lot more anger and outrage from people. And that's what politicians, that's what political movements want. They want to get people really angry and really energized to be committed to a cause. And besides, climate change is kind of ephemeral. If you're stepping out into the world and you feel comfortable, you're not worried about the winter, the summer. There were a record low number of hurricanes this year. I think the same was true for last year. Weather patterns were not nearly as disastrous. And for those of us in Southern California, we're very happy that, it's 78 degrees outside in early December. We're not complaining. If you want to call it climate change, I'm happy with it. So.
It's
I'll never forget. Snowing up there in Plaster or El Dorado? Is it snowing?
Yeah, no. When I was in junior high, really is when it started. Then into high school, and it was all about the hole in the ozone, and it was all about we're all going to be dead in 10 years. And it was always 10 years. No matter what they come out with, this within the next 10 years. Even AOC, when she made her little climate change stupid vomiting bit of vocabulary, 10 years, we're all going to be. So much of us are going to be dead in 10 years. It's always 10 years.
That's it. And
in 10 years for 40 or 50 years now.
That's it. And the leftist, climate cultist cause, they never cared. They just kept screaming and yelling about it. And that's why I think I'm really glad I could get that thought out. I don't think that was getting a lot of attention. They are going to yell about something. They have to yell about something that they think is more effective. And the climate alarmism cult wasn't it. That didn't generate the heat that it used to. Other stuff became more prominent, more insistent on their time and energy. But it does go to show it had a long shelf life for sure. I mean, Joe Biden, I think, was the most preeminent advocate for this climate
existential threat. How many times do we hear it's the existential threat, including from the Department of Defense at the time, saying, no, it's not the Middle East, it's not Russia, it's climate change.
That's right.
He literally said that.
It's a foreign policy issue. We have to take care of this. Oh, no. And he wanted to turn every military vehicle, he wanted to make them go electric. Oh, man. I mean, just the insanity of it all. But there it is. I mean, it was just a pronounced issue. That has been one of the biggest reversals in military policy in the United States, going from all of this, not just the DEI collapse, thank God for that under the new Trump administration, but throwing away all of the climate, cult adherence, all of that being dismissed. What a big win for us.
President getting Trump us out of the
and you know what? And you're not hearing, all of the Democrats who want to line up for 2028. I don't hear Gavin Newsom talking. Well, he tried to blame Pacific Palisades and the huge fires that burned everything up. But
that's right.
Within a day, they captured the guy who had set the fire. It was so evident. And Gavin Newsom dropped it. That's all. Now, he's allowed to drop it. Corporate media is going to prop him up as much as they can.
Of course they will.
He stopped running with it. It's just,
what else corporate media has dropped? Much to my chagrin, corporate media has dropped it. I haven't seen really much of anything on it. Of course, like you, I don't really watch it anymore. So maybe they did, but I'm talking about the 2 National Guardsmen.
Oh my God. Yes.
The soldiers in Washington, D.C. and what happened there. Just radio silence
Shameful,
about that.
awful. It's beyond outrageous, to have an Afghan national who had lied to the United States who had deceived the country in order to get in. And then he murdered one of them. The others, and thankfully has survived, is in critical condition.
Still critical,
and
yeah.
Apparently one of the reports that he shouted Allahu Akbar when he attacked those two National Guardsmen. I want to build the bridge just a little further, because the climate cult, they looked at the issue as an immigration issue too. Oh my gosh, the climate refugees, they're fleeing Latin America.
They were trying to get away with calling them that.
So we've got to bring them into the United States. Okay,
yes.
They're pushing that aside, and they have found a nice, cozy way to get back to the immigration issue, which really, that is the signature issue. I wrote about this recently for American Thinker. American Greatness also took it on. This is the signature issue. This is it. Climate is not a problem. Affordability, serious issues that are facing, whether it's affordability, crime, looking for a job, all of this stuff. You get rid of the illegal population in this country, all of those other issues will disappear. And guess what? Even the well-being of the environment will improve. The Sierra Club used to oppose mass immigration. Nobody talks about this. They got a lot of money from corporate America.
I did not know that.
They said we have to stop massive movements of people. We should stop mass immigration. People should stay in their own countries. That would diminish the harm on the environment. So there is that, just further building the bridge from Greta Thunberg to immigration. And you can be sure she's going to be talking about how no one is illegal, and we've got to help these poor refugees, etc., and poison the whole West with Gaza terrorists who want to blow everybody up. Thank God Congress has just taken a stand on that. No one from Gaza is coming into this country. Great step. God bless Donald Trump cracking down. They've listed 30 countries where they're not going to accept refugees. Immigration is the signature issue. It's important to declare this because there are a lot of forces. They looked at there are a lot of interests within the Republican Party and in the general interest group public. They looked at what happened in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City, and Democrats had a lot of strong wins. And they go, oh, Republicans need to back off on this immigration issue. They're a little too harsh on it. No, Trump needs to double down, triple down. They need to round up as many of these illegals and get them out. Something that isn't getting enough attention is the wall. It is getting built little by little. We're seeing more sections of it coming up in Texas, Arizona, and even in California. Kristi Noem talked about a recent contract that was approved to help complete the wall in California, of all places. Immigration, that is the issue. That's what we should be talking about.
Because that's a federal thing. California can't stop it.
Yes.
The huge portion of where there's a big hole, it's not completed, I understand, is on a Native American reservation.
Yes.
And they're not allowing it because they're a sovereign nation. They can say no, and they are saying no. I'm sure the right amount of money and greasing some palms here and there would probably take care of that. But that's part of the problem now too. That's got to be completed. We got to get that finished.
That needs to be done. Trump needs to make that a priority. I think Ann Coulter, she loves Trump now, the Trump 2.0. She's in love with this. This is what she had voted for in 2016, what we all had voted for in 2016. Maybe she needs to get back to tweeting, okay, today is, December 9th, 2025, and X number of miles have been constructed for the wall or whatever. We need to have that documented. That needs to be upfront.
That cost us so much money. We had already paid for all the materials, and that idiot Biden sold it all for pennies on the dollar as it sat in the desert, just languishing and falling apart, because they hadn't put the finishing painting on it to prevent the rust and so on. The whole thing has just been so damn ridiculous. And you're to blame, America, if you sat back and you voted for Joe Biden. Or even Kamala Harris. You are all so to blame. Own it. I have my own conservatives telling me, Charlie, you got to talk nice to the Democrats. We're going to make them feel welcome. Screw that. No, you're going to wake up. You're going to realize everything that's been happening to me, my not even being able to afford anything in the state of California. I put those people in office. I'm the one that voted for those incredible, exorbitant, highest fuel tax prices in the nation. I'm responsible for this. You won't, though. You probably won't. I doubt if anybody on the left's even watching me, but they just don't. They don't take responsibility for their own behaviors. And their choices are so bad. Now, we see that when they move to other states, Arthur. They bring their stupid politics with them to where people in other states are like, Californians, get out. We can't stand you. Like, I don't blame you. We're not all like that, please.
There is a population pressure. I mean, Idaho is starting to pay attention to this. Their population has grown dramatically. It's a very red state. It has gotten redder. I've been in touch with a lot of lawmakers there. With the work I do with mass resistance, we're gearing up for the next legislative session as well. The good news, though, by and large, left UGs are conservative. They flee New York, California, Illinois. They go to Tennessee, Florida, Idaho, Georgia, Kansas. They are voting red. That is the issue. If you're seeing blue, if you're seeing refugees or migration from one state to another and it's bluer, what it most likely is a bureaucrat or a Washington insider who found a cheaper home. They leave the DC or the Maryland area, they move to Georgia. This is happening in the Atlanta suburbs. You're seeing this as a concern in North Carolina as well. It's immigration, ultimately. That is what is turning a lot of these regions from red to purple to blue. Charlotte, North Carolina, and Georgia, those states are kind of on knife's edge here. Yes, they went Trump's way. Democrats made some wins in Georgia. However, this is a problem. North Carolina, they still elected a Democrat governor. There's a lot of work to be done. They've got to get all the illegals out. Georgia Republicans, some of them in the legislature, have betrayed the Trump cause. They've started pushing for amnesty or going easy on the illegals, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who had campaigned on America First. And then she started talking about, well, we can't deport all the illegals. Oh, yes, we can. And yes, we must. See, that's what's so this is the signature issue.
That was very disappointing, when she started talking about amnesty or some kind of form of amnesty. Like, oh, not again.
And she had said a lot of stuff I didn't like, belly aching about Epstein, belly aching about McCarthy, siding with McCarthy, making noise about Epstein. I could even, claiming a genocide in Gaza, I said, forget. Okay, I don't like it. But when she said, well, we can't deport all the illegals, I said, you're fired. Deport her from office. And she deported herself. Great. And I've got great news. There is an excellent state senator, Colton Moore. He's in that same area. His state Senate seat practically covers the district. He has announced he is a fantastic Freedom Caucus member in the Georgia legislature. He is such a staunch conservative that establishment, they blacklisted him from attending the General Assembly notice. This was in early 2024. He's an elected official. He had a right to enter the General Assembly to hear the State of the State address, and he was not allowed to enter. The current Speaker of the Georgia House would not let him in, had guards standing in the way, and Colton says, I have a right to come in. He tried to walk in. They literally pushed him down, knocked him to the ground. When he tried to get in again, they arrested him. He was ultimately released. Why am I giving him the attention? Because he just did a great ad for his congressional campaign to replace MTG. He gave a great panorama view of one of the valleys in Northwest Georgia. And he said, all of those migrants being shipped from Texas and Arizona, they were coming through Northwest Georgia, and a lot of them stayed. Illegal immigration is impacting everybody, and we need to get all of them out. That's exactly what it is. Every person who's running for office, if they've got an R after their name, they need to say deport all the illegals. The A word shouldn't be anywhere in their mouths. And what I really like too, you've got U.S. senators like Eric Schmidt of Missouri. They have started talking about lowering legal immigration. This has been the real signature issue. I spoke with a friend of mine. His name is Mark. He's in Beverly Hills. He's an engineer. One would think liberal. No, he's a hardcore conservative. He's been very attentive to the immigration issue. For him, the problem has been H-1B, chain migration. Yes. You have the legal ways.
Anchor babies, yes.
And then it invites, he says it's the legal stuff that leads to the illegal. So you've got to deal with this. H-1B needs to go, and that discussion has moved to the forefront. All of this is very important. And I made that very clear in my piece on Trump needs to, this is the signature issue. This is going to be the issue for the Republican nominee in 2028 and beyond. 2.3 million deportations. Well, 500,000 have been forcibly removed. The rest of them have voluntarily left. good, but that's not enough. It should be 10 million by October of 2026. And I think the president is going to ratchet up the pressure. He's going to use every effort, cutting off applications, asylum requests from those 30 countries is excellent. I think it should be all of them at this point. A moratorium is appropriate. It's an economic issue. People are still struggling with rent, and even in red states as well as blue. And this is due to the migrant pressures. This is due to the overwhelming number of migrants, immigrants coming into the country every year. I was the kind of guy who was like, just don't come illegally. You could come legally. But I'm seeing and hearing and understanding now the pressure that it puts on the job market, the water table, the resources, the housing. I get it now. We got to stop
I do
it
too.
all.
I do too. And the very countries that are lecturing us about taking in people are the ones who have some of the strictest immigration policies of all, Mexico and Canada. You don't get to just walk in there and decide you're going to stay.
That's it.
You don't.
That's it.
And we have 50 million, depending on who you listen to. J.J. Carroll and Gil Maza, two people I admire and respect, retired Border Patrol agents. They both say it's 50 million, Charlie.
I believe
it's 50 million. Just while Biden was in office, and that doesn't include the ones that were already here. And now we're a sanctuary state in California. 10 million at least are voting illegally. We don't stand a chance this next year for the governor's election to have a conservative in there with all the voting fraud that's in place.
I'm a perennial optimist. I know it might, some people might, laugh at me for that, but I do agree, though. It's like our voting, our voting patterns, our franchise is very much diluted and distorted by this illegal immigration. And you know what? President Trump needs to step in. Somebody needs to go after the, Prop 187. Excellent proposition, passed. It did even better than Pete Wilson did in 1994. Republicans have bought the lie in this state that it was Prop 187 that hurt the Republican brand. That's a lie. I mean, that's nonsense. The problem was abusive labor unions and mass illegal immigration, adulterating the voter franchise, flooding major cities, the big cities, with blue votes. This is what California is dealing with. North Carolina will be next if it doesn't get all the illegals out. I think North Carolina can turn this around. I think Georgia can turn this around. Those are the two next states. Democrats are just they're just licking their chops trying to get those two states because they got to find something to try to be competitive in 28. North Carolina, Georgia, keep an eye on those. The Rust Belt states, let's see what happens in 26, but they're inching our way. I think they know that they kind of lost those. So this is where the Democrats are. I can only hope we have a decent outcome for 26. What will make that happen? Immigration, deport all the illegals. Congress needs to be passing as many laws as they can, tightening the immigration rules. Hart-Celler, that has come into the discussion, the 1965 immigration reform bill, which allowed mass legal immigration from third world countries where the people do not share our values, heritage, culture, or have an interest even in learning English. That law needs to be repealed. That has now come into the mainstream discussion. This is a big, big win for us. The fact that members of Congress are talking about it. This was unthinkable 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we had Paul Ryan having forums with Luis Gutierrez of Chicago saying we need to find a way to help these immigrants to come to America so they can get jobs and we can help them participate in the American dream. All the while, Americans themselves couldn't participate in the American dream. It has changed, and so much for the better. 10 years, what a difference it has made. President Trump is a signature element of that. I always want to give a special shout out to people like Governor Ron DeSantis. They cracked down on E-Verify. They expanded E-Verify. DeSantis is leading the discussion on the H-1B problems. That needs to go. It's completely abused. That's a big,
absolutely it is.
Discussion is moving in the right direction when it comes to the immigration issue. And I'm so thrilled. Trump must make this number one. If he has to get rid of every other issue, don't talk about affordability. Get rid of all the illegals. Don't talk about crime by itself. It's in connection with all these illegals. Get them out. Get rid of the cartels. This will solve all the other problems.
You're telling me that there's nobody else who can do the jobs in the tech world and in Silicon Valley unless they're from India or some other Asian country. Yeah, that's it, huh? There's no one else who can do a job in the United States of America. Well, then why don't you start doing some training on your own? Meta is investing $1 billion. They're bragging about creating jobs. Creating jobs for who? Not for U.S. citizens.
Yes.
You stupid.
And there was a recent report about that. You have some hiring firms, they brag that they will not hire Americans. They go out of their way to make sure foreign nationals are getting their jobs. You're bringing up the workforce issue. There are some companies that are complaining about a workforce shortage. The answer to that is not an open border. The answer to that is education reform. It has shown that we've had a collapsing, corrupt educational establishment for the last 30 years, which has not prepared American citizens from young to maturity to be prepared to enter and succeed in the workforce. That needs to change. Now that the illegal immigration issue is finally getting tackled, now we can deal with this cultural problem. Education is a farce. It's a failure in so many public schools. Kids go to universities getting these flimsy, socially liberal degrees that have no bearing or any practical.
Women's health studies. I got a master's degree.
Yeah, brother. All of this. And then there's the massive debt to go along with it. Now we're facing this crunch. It's time to get people back to work. This is a problem that is finally not going to get papered over because they just want to say, well, we can't find any workers. Let's import some more. No, what you do is you get people off their butts and get them to American citizens. They can do it. If they feel the pangs, if they think, do I want to starve or do I want to work? They'll work. Get rid of the welfare, get rid of the handouts, get rid of the stupid degrees. And then you'll find plenty of people who can step into the construction industries, who can step into the office. Or
a little bit before our time, Arthur, it was quite prevalent in the United States of America, especially with unions and big companies, that this is what we do. They would have apprenticeship programs.
There you go.
And you were getting paid to learn, and of course you had to sign a work agreement. You'll stay with us for at least a year. There's a trucking company up in my area, Northern California. You agree to drive for us for a year, we'll get you your Class A. We'll get you all the training you need actually driving, and we'll pay you while you're getting it. Fantastic. And I'm not illegal, and I can actually read English. What a great idea. Why can't Meta and these other big, ridiculous, swollen, bloated social media clowns, why can't they do something similar to that instead of saying, oh, we got to import everybody? Yep, you got to support us. And by the way, they pay most U.S. workers less. These H-1B workers who come in, like from India and so on, they make less.
It's slave labor practically. They can pay them half as much. And then if the employees complain about like basic working conditions, they can say, look, you say, yep, that's it. We'll just pull the H-1B and kick you out. It's slave labor. It's serfdom. It's serfdom. That's what it is. Yep. It's immoral. It's wrong. H-1B, we're talking about like legal immigration moratorium. We need an H-1B moratorium if we don't just outright cut it off. And back again, why Marjorie Taylor Greene was a failure. She was like, look at me, I'm introducing a bill to abolish H-1B. But she had this huge loophole for medical professionals.
Oh, really?
She sure did. Nurses and doctors, we'll take them from everywhere. That's fine. But everybody else, no. But we need the H-1B. We have plenty of people who can step into the medical fields too. That is a booming.
Yeah, a lot of those doctors and nurses who were fired because they wouldn't take the COVID shot. How about that? How about we start there?
And President Trump, thank you for taking a stand against the outrageous health mandates. But there you go. You see, it's the signature issue, and we really have to clamp down on people. It's like, again, MTG showcasing, look at me, I want to stand up to H-1B. It's like, no, you're not. You created this huge loophole. And we got to be on the lookout for that. EB-5. We're not St. Kitts and Nevis. Some of the Caribbean countries, they literally say you can buy a passport because they want the investment. We don't need that. We've got plenty of people where, we shouldn't be allowing, Chinese billionaires or, Arab billionaires to drop. This was Trump. See, we have to keep even hammering Trump on this. He offered like the gold visa, drop $5 million and we'll give you citizenship. I say no to that. No, you need to prioritize American citizens being able to get these jobs. It's time.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy to me too. I'm glad that kind of just went away. But when he first came up with that, I was like, good heavens, this sounds like are you going to be selling me solar power panels next? I mean, you're going to be knocking on my door telling me about the great investment of annuities.
Yeah, it's really stunning to me. This is still a stumbling block for Trump. There were two. This is a problem. Some people they chalked it up to a messaging issue. Well, be that as it may, Trump has really had this problem. Even when he ran in 2016, he started talking about we should have more legal immigration. We need to have more H-1Bs. He got a huge backlash for that. And this was in 2016, and then he backed off on it. This is still a problem. So this is why, J.D. Vance is a great guy, but the discussions are already floating out there, and DeSantis has really been stepping out. Ron DeSantis took a stand on H-1B way early. He was leading on this issue this year. The last 2 months, he said, I don't want to hire anybody with H-1B. He issued a directive to Florida universities. No H-1B hires. You are going to hire Americans. They're already doing this.
Arthur, I'm a fan. I'm a Ron DeSantis fan. I have been almost from the beginning. But however, what a dumbass move running against the president.
I'm going to disagree.
Why did he do that when especially there was already, it wasn't inked, but all the inner circles are saying there was already an agreement that DeSantis was going to be his VP choice. And then he could have just walked right into it 4 years later. Why did he do that?
I heard about that, but the first problem is they're both in the same state, so those electoral votes would have been kicked out. Now, so that's the first problem that created the issue. I think the other problem, and I agree with this, is that Trump in 2022 was really waffling on stuff. He didn't accomplish it. He didn't keep his promises. Whatever reason, whether it was deep state or his mismanagement or he wasn't really committed to the cause, I don't care. He's doing a great job now, so that's water under the bridge. But primaries, they serve a very important purpose. If they're, no matter who the front runner may be, a primary is going to push that person in the right direction. And I think DeSantis's bid was really important for that. He got the ball rolling. You don't wait your turn. Obama didn't wait his turn. He did win the nomination in 2008. Colton Moore is not waiting his turn. He's a young guy as a state senator in Georgia. There are other bigger entrepreneurs who've already jumped into the Georgia 14th congressional seat. He's not waiting his turn. And it's going to be interesting. Don't get me wrong. I like J.D. Vance. I voted for Trump because of J.D. Vance. But if Vance doesn't take a stand and really form his own movement, if he doesn't build and improve the movement, we're going to have a problem. MAGA,
we're only 10, 11 months in. I think give him some time. Give him some time. We got some other things to take care of.
We have an even better and I will give Trump credit and the grassroots credit. We have shifted the discussion so much that anybody, whether Marco Rubio, this is a guy who was part of the Gang of Eight amnesty bill in 2013. Now he's like totally MAGA. I mean, he's even stronger than Trump. I mean, he is just declaring war on all the illegals. He is reviewing the visa applications and getting people who are supposedly here legally and getting them out. This is a remarkable turnaround. Eric Schmidt, you've got everyday U.S. senators who are taking a stand and going in the right direction. This is good news. We just have to keep up the momentum. Immigration is the signature issue. We don't back down on this. All the other problems get solved.
You know what I flash back to when you said wait their turn? The Republican Party has been notorious for that.
Yep.
Well, it's his turn because I asked that. As much as I liked Bob Dole, he was a World War II war hero, injured vet. You could still, that's why he was always carrying that pin and his fist was clenched. He couldn't open his hand. He had to put a pin in there just so it didn't, he always had a pin handy. Extraordinary gentleman. I like Bob Dole a lot. Should have never run him against Bill Clinton. What the heck was that? What were they thinking? And when I would ask Republicans at the time, why did you choose him? It was his time.
It was his turn.
Yes. That's what they said. It was his turn.
I'm curious. This is an interesting discussion. I want to follow it if you don't mind. Who was your choice in 96? I couldn't vote at the time, so I wasn't as tuned in, but who did you want?
Great question. Now you're going to have to think.
One name comes to mind that I heard floating around.
I always loved Jack Kemp, and that was nice.
That's the one I was thinking of. And you know what,
Kemp?
You had little bits of the discussion coming into the forefront about working Americans need a place to live. We got to take care of them. He took a little bit of the Ross Perot populism with him. He had an idea of getting people on welfare off of welfare. There was a creativity about Kemp. That was the name. I think he was the VP, correct?
He
VP
was. He was.
So that they had flipped the script, let him run.
Should have been quite the other way around.
That would have been
Maybe
a real challenge. A congressman stepping into a national office, even is tough. It's a lot tougher, nowadays. The last time we had a congressman serving as president was James A. Garfield, and of course we know what happened to him.
That far, does it? Wow.
And of course he got shot for the privilege. It was horrible.
For the privilege,
but that's it. You need a national profile. It's such a media campaign now, and congressmen just don't generate that kind of heat. Of course, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene. People want her to run for president, but she has dismissed that idea. We'll see what happens, though. I think
I want her to run for president too, just because that would make for some really entertaining debates.
It certainly would. People can call her out on waffling on the immigration issue, but and we look at 28. That's a worth considering here. Anybody who has any chance. JD Vance is number one. He's like 42 points ahead right now, but anything can change in a year. DeSantis, Rubio, and this will, Brian Kemp wants to run. I know Chris Sununu wants to run, but it's all going to come back to the immigration issue. And Brian Kemp was not as strong on that as he should have been. Chris Sununu, I have no idea. That's a bad sign right there. Being in New Hampshire with the serious fentanyl crisis, and that's a lot of it's due to open borders. What did he do about it? But it's going to signature issue now. It's going to be the signature issue for 3 years from now. We need to get all these illegals out, and we should not back down from it. And man, you're going to even have some Democrats, I guarantee, in the 2028, you're going to have one or two Democrats running, and they're going to start having a discussion about maybe we need to get back to reality on this. We can't have an open border. No, we cannot give every illegal health care. No, we can't do that. You're going to see some attempt to moderate, I guarantee. Will they be the nominee? I doubt it, but the discussion will be there.
I really always love having you on, Arthur. It's great to have you back in again. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Where do we find you? Let's start with your blog spot.
You bet. aschaper1.blogspot.com. I'm posting stuff there when I can. Most of the time I'm writing for Town Hall, American Thinker, American Greatness, and even Canada Free Press. They're still taking my stuff on. I've reached out to World News Daily. We'll see what happens with them. But I've had a broad array of sites that have taken me on, and more people are interviewing me, and I know that you're a big part of that. So I really appreciate you providing me this forum as well.
Well, I appreciate you not forgetting we little guys. Thank you so much, brother. I'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Arthur Schaper, man. I always get a kick talking to him, especially when we're one-on-one in person. It's just fun. Boom, 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 boom. Always fun. I love it. So follow him definitely and read his stuff on townhall.com is where I see most of his stuff. Can be found at charliesimons.com, and you can get yourself one of these mugs or a hat or any of the array of things I have at the merch store there. You can also if you decide you want to support this ministry financially, please do. That'd be nice. There's several different ways at my website. What else did I want to share with you? Oh, please like this show. Please like it right now. Hit that like button. Thank you. Has something to do with algorithms, and then Rumble will start sharing the show more whenever. I forget to ask you to do that sometimes. So when you like the show, and especially if you comment below, wish me a Merry Christmas, because I'm wishing you one. Merry Christmas if we don't get to talk to you before then. May God bless you and keep you. May God bless America, but most importantly, America bless God. Right on.